Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Three Muckrakers podcast. We're broadcasting midweek to discuss the recent series of speeches made by both Donald Trump, but more importantly about Michelle Obama, First Lady of the United States. She gave a truly groundbreaking and important speech. It is one in which we felt our audience would want to hear. So we're going to give you about 13 minutes or so of this speech because most news outlets have clipped it down to 30 seconds or less because they don't seem to think you have the attention span. But you need to hear this, and we've cut out the parts where it's blatantly political. This is a woman, a mother, the First Lady of the United States, worrying very deeply about the impact of this particular election, the words of Donald Trump, the whole sexual abuse scandal that has followed him, and just the general tone of this election on our children, on our daughters, on our sons, on women, on men. It's truly disturbing, and you need to see this. So we're going to broadcast it just for you right now.
This week has been particularly interesting for me personally because it has been a week of profound contrast. See, on Tuesday at the White House, we celebrated the International Day of the Girl and Let Girls Learn. And it was a wonderful celebration. It was the last event that I'm going to be doing as First Lady for Let Girls Learn. And I had the pleasure of spending hours talking to some of the most amazing young women you will ever meet, young girls here in the US and all around the world. And we talked about their hopes and their dreams. We talked about their aspirations. See, because many of these girls have faced unthinkable obstacles just to attend school, jeopardizing their personal safety, their freedom, risking the rejection of their families and communities. So I thought it would be important to remind these young women how valuable and precious they are. I wanted them to understand that the measure of any society is how it treats its women and girls. And I told them that they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And I told them that they should disregard anyone who demeans or devalues them, and that they should make their voices heard in the world. And I walked away feeling so inspired, just like I'm inspired by all the young people here. And I was so uplifted by these girls. That was Tuesday. And now here I am, out on the campaign trail in an election where we have consistently been hearing hurtful, hateful language about women. Language that has been painful for so many of us, not just as women, but as parents trying to protect our children and raise them to be caring, respectful adults. And as citizens who think that our nation's leaders should meet basic standards of human decency. The fact is that in this election, we have a candidate for president of the United States who over the course of his lifetime, in the course of this campaign, has said things about women that are so shocking, so demeaning, that I simply will not repeat anything here today. And last week, we saw this candidate actually bragging about sexually assaulting women. And I can't believe that I'm saying that a candidate for president of the United States has bragged about sexually assaulting women. And I have to tell you that I can't stop thinking about this. It has shaken me to my core in a way that I couldn't have predicted. So while I'd love nothing more than to pretend like this isn't happening and to come out here and do my normal campaign speech, it would be dishonest and disingenuous to me to just move on to the next thing like this was all just a bad dream. This is not something that we can ignore. It's not something we can just sweep under the rug as just another disturbing footnote in a sad election season. Because this was not just a lewd conversation. This wasn't just locker room banter. This was a powerful individual speaking freely and openly about sexually predatory behavior and actually bragging about kissing and groping women, using language so obscene that many of us were worried about our children hearing it when we turn on the TV. And to make matters worse, it now seems very clear that this isn't an isolated incident. It's one of countless examples of how he has treated women his whole life. And I have to tell you that I listen to all of this, and I feel it so personally. And I'm sure that many of you do too, particularly the women. The shameful comments about our bodies, the disrespect of our ambitions and intellect, the belief that you can do anything you want to a woman. It is cruel. It's frightening. And the truth is, it hurts. It hurts. It's like that sick, sinking feeling you get when you're walking down the street, minding your own business, and some guy yells out vulgar words about your body. Or when you see that guy at work that stands just a little too close, stares a little too long, and makes you feel uncomfortable in your own skin. It's that feeling of terror and violation that too many women have felt when someone has grabbed them or forced himself on them and they've said no, but he didn't listen. Something that we know happens on college campuses and countless other places every single day. It reminds us of stories we've heard from our mothers and grandmothers about how back in their day, the boss could say and do whatever he pleased to the women in the office, and even though they worked so hard, jumped over every hurdle to prove themselves, it was never enough. We thought all of that was ancient history, didn't we? And so many have worked for so many years to end this kind of violence and abuse and disrespect, but here we are in 2016, and we're hearing these exact same things every day on the campaign trail. We are drowning in it. And all of us are doing what women have always done. We're trying to keep our heads above water, just trying to get through it, trying to pretend like this doesn't really bother us. Maybe because we think that admitting how much it hurts makes us as women look weak. Maybe we're afraid to be that vulnerable. Maybe we've grown accustomed to swallowing these emotions and staying quiet because we've seen that people often won't take our word over his. Or maybe we don't want to believe that there are still people out there who think so little of us as women. Too many are treating this as just another day's headline, as if our outrage is overblown or unwarranted, as if this is normal, just politics as usual. But New Hampshire, be clear, this is not normal. This is not politics as usual. This is disgraceful. It is intolerable. And it doesn't matter what party you belong to, Democrat, Republican, Independent, no woman deserves to be treated this way. None of us deserves this kind of abuse. And I know it's a campaign, but this isn't about politics. It's about basic human decency. It's about right and wrong. And we simply cannot endure this or expose our children to this any longer, not for another minute, and let alone for 4 years. Now is the time for all of us to stand up and say, enough is enough. This has got to stop right now. Because consider this, if all of this is painful to us as grown women, what do you think this is doing to our children? What messages are our little girls hearing about who they should look like, how they should act? What lessons are they learning about their value as professionals, as human beings, about their dreams and aspirations? And how is this affecting men and boys in this country? Because I can tell you that the men in my life do not talk about women like this, and I know that my family is not unusual. And to dismiss this as everyday locker room talk is an insult to decent men everywhere. The men that you and I know don't treat women this way. They are loving fathers who are sickened by the thought of their daughters being exposed to this kind of vicious language about women. They are husbands and brothers and sons who don't tolerate women being treated and demeaned and disrespected. And like us, these men are worried about the impact this election is having on our boys who are looking for role models of what it means to be a man. In fact, someone recently told me a story about their 6-year-old son who one day was watching the news. They were watching the news together, and the little boy out of the blue said, "I think Hillary Clinton will be president." And his mom said, "Well, why do you say that?" And this little 6-year-old said, "Because the other guy called someone a piggy." And he said, "You cannot be president if you call someone a piggy." So even a 6-year-old knows better. A 6-year-old knows that this is not how adults behave. This is not how decent human beings behave. And this is certainly not how someone who wants to be president of the United States behaves. Because let's be very clear, strong men, men who are truly role models, don't need to put down women to make themselves feel powerful. People who are truly strong lift others up. People who are truly powerful bring others together. And that is what we need in our next president. We need someone who is a uniting force in this country. We need someone who will heal the wounds that divide us. Someone who truly cares about us and our children. Someone with strength and compassion to lead this country forward. And let me tell you, I'm here today because I believe with all of my heart that Hillary Clinton will be that president. In our hearts, we all know that if we let Hillary's opponent win this election, then we are sending a clear message to our kids that everything they're seeing and hearing is perfectly okay. We are validating it. We are endorsing it. We're telling our sons that it's okay to humiliate women. We're telling our daughters that this is how they deserve to be treated. We're telling all our kids that bigotry and bullying are perfectly acceptable in the leader of their country. Is that what we want for our children? And remember, we won't just be setting a bad example for our kids, but for our entire world. Because for so long, America has been a model for countries across the globe, pushing them to educate their girls, insisting that they give more rights to their women. But if we have a president who routinely degrades women, who brags about sexually assaulting women, then how can we maintain our moral authority in the world? How can we continue to be a beacon of freedom and justice and human dignity? We cannot allow ourselves to be so disgusted that we just shut off the TV and walk away. And we can't just sit around wringing our hands. No, we need to recover from our shock and depression and do what women have always done in this country. We need you to roll up your sleeves. We need to get to work. Because remember this, when they go low, we go. Yes, we do. And voting ourselves is a great start, but we also have to step up and start organizing. So we need you to make calls and knock on doors and get folks to the polls on Election Day and sign up to volunteer with one of the Hillary campaign folks who are here today just waiting for you to step up. And young people, and not so young people, get on social media. Share your own story of why this election matters, why it should matter for all people of conscience in this country. There is so much at stake in this election. See, the choice you make November 8th could determine whether we have a president who treats people with respect or not, a president who will fight for our kids, for good schools, for good jobs for our families or not, a president who thinks that women deserve the right to make our own choices about our bodies and our health or not. That's just a little bit of what's at stake. So we cannot afford to be tired or turned off. And we cannot afford to stay home on Election Day. Because on November the 8th, we have the power to show our children that America's greatness comes from recognizing the innate dignity and worth of all our people. On November the 8th, we can show our children that this country is big enough to have a place for us all. Men and women, folks of every background and walk of life, and that each of us is a precious part of this great American story, and we are always stronger together. On November 8th, we can show our children that here in America, we reject hatred and fear. And in difficult times, we don't discard our highest ideals. No, we rise up to meet them. We rise up to perfect our union. We rise up to defend our blessings of liberty. We rise up to embody the values of equality and opportunity and sacrifice that have always made this country the greatest nation on earth. Is who we are. And don't ever let anyone tell you differently. Hope is important. Hope is important for our young people. And we deserve a president who can see those truths in us. A president who can bring us together and bring out the very best in us.
So there you have it, Phil. A truly astonishing speech from the First Lady, and speaking as a mother, speaking as a woman. As she said at the beginning of the speech, that she just had her last event as First Lady of the United States. She's only got 100 days left, believe it or not, as First Lady. And the example that she has set for women, not just in the United States, but around the globe, the International Year, the Years to Let Girls Learn movement that she has started.
I think she's a fantastic role model, actually. And that was a very powerful, very, very powerful speech. And I echo a lot of what she says. It is worrying. It is worrying. As a father of a daughter, it is worrying. The possibility that, I don't believe it'll ever happen, but the possibility that, Trump will be in this position and he endorses assaulting women.
Yeah,
that's what he says.
He's truly a misogynist, but more importantly, it's dangerous. I mean, we're talking about this in 2016, not 1940, not 1930, that this treatment of women is allowed. I mean, as Michelle said during her speech, we have seen women struggle in the workplace over overbearing men, over sexual abuse, over women today in universities. You've got a daughter in university. I've got 3 daughters and 2 granddaughters as well as 2 sons, and I worry about them hearing these messages coming across time after time after time.
Yeah, it's awful, isn't it? It is really awful. And as you say, it doesn't belong to 2016, does it?
No.
It's like something from 40, 50 years ago or whatever. Well, not even then, actually. But I mean, it's just terrible stuff. And I think Michelle Obama has been done a fantastic job. She's a fantastic role model. And, I echo her concerns in relation to what may be the future.
In covering the White House, I've had the opportunity to actually see her and her office in action. And it's truly astonishing what they do on a regular basis. I was there back in, I want to say, probably 2012, and it was right around Mother's Day, and it was the year after my own mother had passed away, so it was interesting to be there. And she was doing an event for Gold Star families and their children. So these are largely women who have lost family members to service to war. And it was truly astonishing to see how she and the White House organized this event. You had the main event, the luncheon for mothers and children, over in the East Room, which is the big room you normally see big events held in. But then at the other end of the mansion, in the state dining room, the press were invited in to see these children making Mother's Day gifts with the help of the White House cooking staff. And it was truly astonishing to see her and Dr. Jill Biden, the wife of Vice President Joe Biden, who is the two of them, Jill and Joe, have been huge supporters of Gold Star families, walking around, talking to the kids, relating to them as children, and being genuinely excited about what they're creating, having real conversations. The executive chef back then was also a woman, which was historical in the White House. And to see all of them working so hard to help these children, as well as knowing that in just a few minutes they had to serve a massive dinner just down the hall, a luncheon, was truly astonishing to see.
Terrific.
And she happened to pass by me as she went down the corridor between the red, the green, and the blue room into the dining room and get ready to go in and actually talk. And we, of course, had to scurry down the main hallway behind the ropes to be in there to cover the actual lunch and the speech. And President Obama came in and said a couple of words as well to everybody, which thrilled everybody. And it was just, to see it wasn't just another theatrical White House event. It was a lot of caring and deep emotion. And I fear that we are going to lose that no matter who gets elected, because Bill Clinton is not going to perform the traditional First Lady role and take on causes like this, nor is Melania Trump going to be capable of doing these things. So
there are a million years.
There's a huge void about to happen in this election, regardless of who wins.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for this special edition. We invite you to follow us on Twitter at 3Muckrakers. Individually, Phil Parry is at Wales Eye. Me, I'm Dennis Campbell at UK Progressive. You can download this and all of our podcasts on iTunes and Google Play. And we look forward to catching up with you again later this week with episode 90, where we will debrief everything that happened during what we think was an interesting third debate, because we don't know. We're recording this days before it actually happens. So that's it. That's all. Thank you for listening, and goodbye. The Three Muckrakers podcast is produced by Monk Nash Media in association with Thing 1 and Thing 2 Productions. Copyright 2016, all rights reserved.